Yeah, so who am I? Hi, I'm drwhaxing. Okay, so I do this stuff for Tonic on the Nl, I do some stuff for academic studies on blah 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 stuff, where we are now. I'm busy, well, I'm one of the guys who is busy with setting up an hackerspace in Amsterdam, and it's finally coming along. Yeah, I know. Actually, in about, the prognosis is that in about 2 weeks we can sign our renting agreement.
So what's the party?
And the space is called the ECTA building. Ah! Hackers in ECTA, get it? Okay. I'm the Echo CTM guy and crypto. I have to read in the chat channel and stuff.
Very interesting.
Agenda is, okay, I made one mistake in it. I'm going to talk a bit about some RFD stuff, some NFV, which is not really interesting. After that, I'm going to do some stuff with firmware from the code. So about my ID, it's an NFC payment system, which is being introduced at an Oppenheim in Amsterdam Zuidoost. It's a pilot at the moment, together with some banks. One of the sponsors is ABN AMRO. And surprisingly, the chip is a MyFair ultralight, which has no encryption on it. And the other fun stuff is it has self-service desks. So if you sum it up together, you probably have some system where things might go wrong. So about the MyFair ultralight card, it's only a unique identifier. Basically, that's it. You get an extra ID with it, with the card itself. It's basically some sort of sticker where you put it up on your mobile phone, and then you can hold it up to some reader, and which is linked to your bank account, basically. So the ID is basically linked to your unique identifier, and the ID is also linked to your bank account number. So you need to sign up at the ABN AMRO bank, which will link it to your bank account, so you can charge it up with about, I don't know, some money, so you can. Yeah, I don't know.
The jukebox, jongen.
Somebody
Oh, the jukebox.
Yeah. So in the end, fucking fail. So if you got valid unique identifier, 3 months for you, sir. Are you fucking kidding me? So the pilot isn't really widespread yet. It's basically at one store at the moment. But I heard from some random brown panda that in 2012 they will launch it across the whole country. Yeah, it's free food. So after the over tip card, we have this. Who would have thought?
Playing with you over tip card can be more fun. Ever.
Yeah, well, maybe soon, we don't know yet. Yeah, so that's good. So, some of the attack factors. Let's say you walk past someone with your Orbit chip card reader, which we all have bought because of the Orbit chip card, the touch attack. So you walk past someone, you sniff his unique identifier, you will make something which will emulate the card on, I don't know, whatever, maybe on the touch attack or some other.
There's already hardware available.
Yeah, probably. So that's one attack factor. Because the thing is, it's a PIN code. So basically, you only need to walk past someone and you have his entire card, the entire card. And the thing is, if you look at how the NFC payment systems work from Google or PayPal, they will use exactly the same stuff but with a PIN code. So the thing is that at the moment it's sort of like a bank card with RFD on it and without a PIN code. So skimming is really fucking easy, basically. or you can build some hardware which will brute force a unique identifier. So it will find a unique identifier from someone else, push it into a bank account which has some money on it, so you can buy food on the cost of somebody else. It's basically a lot of edges which are like kind of sharp, and the edges is where you like bleed yourself really quickly. So we saw these sides. Now let's go. That's okay. So basically that's my idea. It's I didn't contact them yet about anything. It's like if they really want to upgrade some stuff in the infrastructure, but they will probably at one point see the studio somewhere, and then we'll see what happens, I guess. What do you think this? So another thing is, I was busy with some stuff in economics, some activist group in Sweden, the world, everywhere, and they were busy with some operations in Syria. And what I found is that they used a lot of firewalls and blue code. Blue code basically, they are not allowed to sell the appliances directly to Syria, so they will sell it to someone in the United Arab States, and from the States there to ship to Syria. There's a lot more firewalls there, but I've chosen it with a reason. So I've chosen by fair die for always a bit of a joke. So yeah, it was very evil. Basically what proxy is proxy provides complete control of all of your web traffic with robust features that include user authentication, web filtering, data loss prevention, inspection and validation of SSL encrypted traffic used in Syria to track citizens. And basically the thing is that everything is meant in the middle there. So if you tweet something bad about, let's say, about the president, they will send a death squad to your house because everything is locked. So that's pretty fucked up. So that's why I wanted to, if we could maybe like disable the firewalls, so and like completely RF them, so they have no fucking clue like how they would update the appliances. So you can actually download some firmware from my site. If you want to take a look yourself, basically I will focus at one version of the firmware, which is the C8K version, the 5.5 one, which is compressed with GZIP, and there's also from version 6.0. It contains signed firmware that haven't been cracked yet, and I don't really know yet how to do it. We'll find out a way sometime in the future, I hope. So I will focus on the 5.5 firmware. But yeah, how? After unpacking, I was a bit puzzled. I didn't really know how to deal with it, how to look further. I could not mount it, so it's like, okay, maybe it has some sort of compression on it, maybe like something like C-lib or whatever you have. It wasn't obfuscated. It wasn't really compressed, although I saw some strings which is used to compress some certain parts of the appliance, the binary. I'm not sure actually, because when I used strings on it, I can see all the files on it, I can see all the commands which could be used. I could all see the other HTML files. But like, okay, this didn't really help me, so I started to Google, and I came out with a tool which is called binwalk. Binwalk basically is a tool which is used to see what is inside a firmware file. So basically, if you download firmware from, say, your router, from some sort of Thomson router, you could download it to upgrade it, but you don't really know like what's in it. Maybe you want to take a look at it, or you want to modify some things. You could download binwalk and run it against the file, and it will indicate like what type of file system it is, what are the other offsets of like the bootloader, etc. etc. But it didn't really help me because it's basically focused for small firmwares, and this one is like quite big. It's like 250 MB. So it kind of crashed and kind of hanged, so it didn't really come further, and it gave a lot of false positives. So yeah, Google plan. So I found some sort of tool from someone else, which was presented at some Indonesian conference, I think a month before I was in Malaysia, from some Indonesian guy, and he basically wrote some tool to extract certain parts from the file, and it extracts some DLL files, and extracts some other contents. I have to say, I did do most of this research like last night. When so it's a bit unfinished actually, but it's still like a work in progress. But I will update it on my blog. Oh, blog. So what it does, it reads the file, it extracts all the files inside it, and after that you could correct the checksum and the MD5, which is basically the license type of system. So it will check the appliance if it's a valid firmware, and if you have paid for your license. But of course I haven't found on some random site of someone in Poland. Which was basically some sort of conference for this type of guys. So they have like this entire list of a lot of firmware from a lot of companies, like I don't know, like Fortinet, Router Systems or Networks or something like that. So it's like this entire list. I was like, oh, look at the firmware. Let's take a look at it. So yeah, the protection mechanism basically has two MD5 heads. I think one of them is for the bootloader. One checks the integrity of the file system. This is basically, I think, the checksum, and one MD5 head, but I'm not sure yet. So I will update you guys later on some point in time in the future. Another thing was like I could not really find a license file. So what I did is I went to eBay. It actually worked, and someone like really fucking stupid uploaded like this entire list of all his serial files and license numbers to the internet. You can't like really see it because it's like right messed up. I don't know. What? It's not a MacBook, okay? But you can read the serial number. So it basically means that if you maybe set up something like some fake security website, if you have some fake security firm, they say like, hey, we have bought this appliance second-hand, but I want to have access to the latest firmware files, and you register with the serial licenses. They will probably give you an account so you can download most of the firmware files. I haven't tried it out yet.
You're going to try it? You
Maybe.
get busted for it.
It's on camera, so maybe. See what I did there?
Possible deniability.
Yeah, exactly. So, what's in the file when I extracted it? There's a lot of files actually. One of them is the bootloader. What is the CN1000MC boot 1.98, which is basically supported by OpenWRT. So I will probably look into that, like how it could like reverse the bootloader and all that. It runs on KVM processors, which is basically used by a lot of these appliances, like big appliances. It is some sort of FPGA system. The other one is on CN Light MC SSL, which is, I think it's an KVM SSL accelerator on some external FPGA, but I'm not sure yet, it's just an indication. It runs on OpenSSL, that thing. And it's actually not on the OpenSSL site anymore. So I'm kind of puzzled because I can't find the source code to look for bugs. So if anybody has it, I can add. And some other of DLLs and archives with goodies. One of them is hd.dll and storage.dll. And one of the funny things about the storage is that if you look at the strings, you will look that you can find out that it has like a C drive, an E drive, and C drive, and whatever. But when it's extracted, you only get like a small amount of files. So I think the code from the Indonesian guy only looks for certain parts of extensions, like the DLL or .ca or archive, and extract that. But when I tried to extract it with DF, it gave me a lot of messed up files, basically. So I'm trying to work with them to provide some better upgraded tool to extract like all the good stuff, and hopefully you can mount it at some point, which is basically what I want. I don't want to export all the files, I want to mount it so I can look at all the fun stuff.
Is this tool checking the total buffer of data and tries to find signatures for executables or DLLs and
yeah, it's
see
basically the offset.
offset, yeah.
Of all the files.
Okay.
So that's what we are trying to do. Find a better tool for it. So since I saw that it's researched like a few days back, I didn't really play with either Pro on the DLLs yet. So I will do that later. So yeah, it's not really complete because the strings proved me wrong and I need some more time. But at some point I think that if I manage to find some bugs in it, which I probably will, I think, I think it's game over for Blue Code for the 5.0 firmware. Let's do that. We need to look at the 6.0 firmware, which has some silence stuff, which has really the license file and it's much better encrypted and compressed. I probably have some sort of SOA encryption on the file, which probably isn't like really hardcore. So, yeah. Can take 5. Any questions?
Are you gonna share any 0 days if you find any?
Yeah, of course, man.
Do you teachers know about this?
Huh?
Do you teachers know about this?
Teachers, they don't give a crap, and don't give a crap about them either.
Why is this on your video?
Is it known what version Syria uses, and is it possible to test which version of Bluecode is running?
Yes. So most of them are outdated appliances who don't have any legitimate serials. So they use outdated appliances from the 5.5 firmware of files. So basically they don't use like the newer stuff. Okay. So it's kind of sort of trivial to exploit the firewalls. I think it's common.
Are they only working on Blue Code stuff, or is there also
There's more
another?
in the pipeline.
Hmm?
There's more in the pipeline.
Okay.
But,
This basic techniques can also be used for other kinds.
yeah, exactly. And most of the stuff like Binwalk is an amazing tool, but it needs a lot of work, basically. And another tool which is for Binwalk is the firmware modification tool, where Binwalk is part of.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically allows you that if you could manage to extract other files from your firmware, you can extract it. You can, with a tool, you could add other files to it, so you could for your own firmware, for your own appliances. Like your mini router somewhere, Thomson, whatever.
You want a copy of a Qualys appliance?
Yeah, for sure. On the trade zero days. Yeah. I guess that's it. Thanks.